Hello there YouTubers! Today we're going to tear down a very fancy sharp stereo system. Surround sound Dolby Digital Pro Logic 3 CD changer, double cassette deck, RDS tuner, and all that kind of good stuff. Okay, now before we tear this thing down, let's just take a look at what it can do. Oh my god, doesn't that look fancy? Oh yes. I don't know how many people there are who are choosing their stereo systems by the fanciness of the demo program, but apparently there are quite a few. You can see it is blinking all over the place. And I remember all these cheap stereo systems sitting on display in our local tech store back in the days, and they were all doing their demo program, and it looked ridiculous. You can basically see what this thing's capable of. Some more blinky down here, of course. Let's take a look at the cassette deck. Wake this thing up from the standby mode. There it is. CD changer starts searching for CDs even though it's not selected. Now cassette decks, it's a cheap kind where you push against the door to open them up. And tape 2, that does everything you'd expect it to do. It plays back, not very well though. There it goes. And might be able to see by the equalizer up there, it does do something. There it is. And it, of course, flashy display right there. Looks kind of ridiculous, but oh well. Now, of course, it's auto reverse and all that. Make it play the other direction too. And of course, fast forward is not a big problem. You can see in the display flashy animations. And stop. Now, that wasn't too exciting, wasn't it? Well, the reason I'm showing you this thing is primarily because of cassette deck number 1. Because I have, in fact, never seen such a cheap cassette deck. I mean, this is not even a cassette deck. That is a bad excuse for a cassette deck, really. Now, not sure if you can see that on camera, but these buttons actually light up in green. And yes, you can see it on camera. This already does tell you quite a bit. Yes, cassette deck 1 can only play back. No fast forward, no rewind, no auto reverse, just play and stop. That is absolutely ridiculous. And just quickly show you. There it is. Does play back, but other direction doesn't work. Fast forward doesn't work, rewind doesn't work. Only thing that works is stop and play back and stop. And we just look down into these things. There we have cassette deck number 2 with the usual head set up that just flips around to play the other side of the cassette or record. And it is adjustable and all that, lots and lots of plastic, but basically it is what you'd expect. Cassette deck number 1 is different. As you can see, we have that tiny little cheapo head down there, and there aren't even any adjustment screws. It just clips in place. Very cheap plastic. That's pretty incredible. Now we have a model number right there. Right, so as you can see, we're not destroying anything extraordinarily valuable or extraordinarily good. Let's go ahead and get started. As you can see, already took the side and back covers off of the unit. Now let's go ahead and see what's inside. And as you can see, we have our usual selection of precision tools. Now please excuse the not so great camera work on this. The problem is this is all happening in bright sunlight, so I have absolutely no idea what my camera's LCD screen is showing. At least I now got the windscreen out, so we shouldn't have any more wind noises in the audio. Anyway, now the first observation, as you can see, this thing is all sagging as soon as you take the back panel off. And I think removing the CD changer is not going to be too much of a terribly complicated task. No, it isn't. There it is. 3 CD changer, of course, and actual CD changer is sitting back in here, and it's all plastic. Amazingly, this does have plugs on it, so you can easily remove it. But yeah, made in 1997. Just reading a date code down in there. So let's just put that to the side. The next thing appears to be the main board. We do have part of the power supply on here, auxiliary inputs, and underneath of there must be a big processor. You can see all those capacitors grouped around there. And let's just take that board out of there. I do have a little bit more of a precision hammer to do that. I don't really feel like removing a load of screws. But let's see. Find the right bit. Wow, this thing even has a charged battery. Okay, see if that was it. Okay, that must be the tuner board right there. Surprisingly big, I have to say. And now the whole thing, yep, the whole thing just pulls out towards the front. Okay, down in that corner right here, we have the cassette deck electronics. You can see the connections to the heads coming in right there. Let's just cut them off. Won't need those anymore. Okay, that's that. And that cable goes down to the amplifier board. It's kind of going all the way through and then through a slot in the circuit board. There is that, as you can see. Put that to the side. And, oh, as you can see, oops, as you can see, I just broke the faceplate. Whoops. Anyway, as you can see, not much left. And you can see that tiny little transformer right there. As I already said, here we have the tuner board, surprisingly big. Of course, today that's even more integrated. Moving on. Let's see if we can remove the faceplate. Okay, we can. There it is, all taken out. Now, this bit here that I broke off, of course, contains some operating buttons for the CD part of it. There it is, just a little circuit board in there, nothing special. It does have some LEDs on there, so I won't throw it away yet. There is the faceplate. I'm going to take a look at that, and here we have the remains. As you can see, there is the one part of the power supply. Fuses, rectifier bridge. It doesn't have any filter capacitors on here, and it doesn't have any voltage regulators on here either, as you can see. And just has a little rectifier bridge hooked up to this somewhat ridiculous aluminum piece for some cooling. So here we have the amp board. I'm going to get that out of there. Okay, get that out of the way. Here we have the amp board, and we're going to take a closer look at that, obviously. And okay, amp board just fell down. Anyway, as I already said, this is a surround sound unit. It does have outputs for front speakers, rear speakers, and a center speaker. No subwoofer output. It does have some decent front speakers that'll put out some bass. We're going to take a look at the speakers later on. I actually did find a use for those, would you believe it? Okay, final screw, I guess. Oh, not quite. Okay. Right. So, really, what I was trying to say is, for 5 speakers, this thing really is not big enough, this transformer. And it was made by Kitamura Kiden, so that sounds kind of Japanese. At least it's not made in China. It's definitely a sign for some quality. There we have it. That's the bottom panel. And that's it. This is what used to be the back cover of the unit, and looking at that thing, I have to correct myself. It was made in Malaysia, not in Japan. I guess Malaysia is still better than China. And here we have a look at all the parts we've gained. CD changer. It's going to be for some later investigation. It doesn't have any kind of processing on there. It's really just a mechanism and a laser pickup. All the rest sits on the main board. So this thing's really just going to be good for some motors. It can't be separated from the unit itself. Should have some good motors in there, quite a few. Of course, front circuit board with some fancy flashy super bright LEDs in green and yellow. I do like that. Yellow is kind of rare. A very fancy VFD display right there. The display driver is a custom Sharp part, by the way. Here we have the main board. Also, that thing contains mostly custom Sharp integrated circuits. There is the voltage regulator circuit right there. You can see that little heatsink. Filter capacitor right there. That's quite ridiculous. Behind of it, we have the amplifier board. STK type integrated circuit. That tells you quite a bit about the quality of this. And this is a 3-channel STK chip. So it does the front speakers and the center speaker. And then on the back, see if I can just quickly turn this around so you can see. On the back, we have another integrated circuit. Might be able to see it in the center of the picture. It's a cheap little, I think it's like 10 watts per channel. Couldn't find a data sheet on that thing. It is another stereo integrated circuit on there for the rear speakers. There are all the terminals. Those, of course, are going to be useful, as well as the heatsink. And moving on, we have the transformer right there with the rectifier bridge on its somewhat ridiculous heatsink. You can kind of see it if I just turn that around. There it is. Then we have the tuner board that might have some useful integrated circuits on it. Of course, nice amount of screws. Now, as for the speakers that came with the system, well, I found a much better way to use them. Oh yes, as you can see, I paired them up with a recent dump find, a Sony surround sound receiver. And believe it or not, it actually does sound surprisingly good. Rear speakers are over here in the rear, of course. They're looking kind of funny, I have to say. There's the other one. There it is. Thank you for watching and see you again soon.